Welcome to the Real Estate 401k Show. Here are your hosts, Ryan Gertis, Mike Weinstein, and Justin Frederick, helping you build a legacy of wealth through real estate. Powered by the Recon Group at West USA and the Frederick team with Fairway Mortgage. NMLS number 625918.
All right, Justin, I'm in a quandary here. I'm about to read a headline to a study and to an article that is Phoenix area specific. And we don't get a lot of that. You know, when we take a look at markets, everybody says the market's going to crash. And we know that Phoenix is an island unto itself. So just because the market crashes somewhere else, we're not worried. I've still yet to see any concrete numbers, stats, studies where anyone is anyone at the economist level concerned about the Phoenix real estate market. But I found this headline to be very, very, in the study, very interesting. Almost 40%, and this was last year. This year has been slow. Last year was crazy. And this will explain why a lot of people last year had a really hard time buying a home because of the competition. But almost 40% of Phoenix area homes were bought with cash last year.
It's a wild number.
It is an incredible number to know, first of all, that, you know, with the median home, I'm going to butcher this, but the median home price is,
I think it's
high.
I think it's 452.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, to think that there is that much cash that people have to go buy homes boggles my mind.
And that with that percentage, wow.
40%. And so for a lot of people, especially first-time FHA home buyers and even first-time conventional buyers, this is the competition that you had. We kept hearing that we've been losing out to cash. Now we know what specific that is. It's nearly 40%. And obviously, a good percentage of those are going to be investors. But here comes the question for me, because right now, rates are, at the time that we are recording this podcast, hovering around 8%. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, so, and 8% obviously is an incredibly high number. My parents' first house that they ever owned, their interest rate was 18%. They got incredibly excited when they were able to refinance it down to 13%.
Yeah.
So history puts things into perspective for me.
Absolutely.
What would you rather do, or what would you advise? Is it better for me, let's say I was looking at a $400,000 house, is it better for me to either pay cash for that house and then consider refinancing when rates drop, or still play the leverage game, put the 25% down, and or if you're going to occupy it, you know, as a primary residence, you know, 5% down, and still just leverage your cash and obtain a loan.
So I definitely,
I know what I would do, but I want to hear from you first.
I definitely think that it really depends on your situation. However, if it's
that's a cop out.
Of course, but I'm going to tell you what I would do.
Okay.
And I know people are going to think that I'm biased because I do loans. Yeah. Well,
okay, but in fairness, what we don't talk a lot about, and we don't need to get into the details, but you are an incredibly savvy investor, and you own. Remember that time Ryan says, "Hey, Justin, when are you going to start investing?
Right.
Be like us." And you're like,
I
own this, I own this, I own this, and I own this, and I never saw Ryan just like shut the heck up because you don't talk about it.
No, I mean, I try to just set it and forget it, you know, and because I want to gain that wealth over time. And I always try to buy at least one property a year, so I try to keep expanding that portfolio. But I feel like, just like it says on here, cash is king. I feel like keeping that money in my pocket, because we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how many good opportunities we're going to see in the near future, and you need that cash to perform. Let's say that the market did drop 10%. Let's just say it did. You know, chances of that happening is very slim, but it could happen.
It could.
It
Sure.
could. I want to be prepared to buy as many properties as I can and leverage everything that I can to make as much money as I can. I don't want to focus on one single investment. Yes, is it safe to buy with the cash, and does it make you feel a little bit more comfortable? Absolutely, it does. But this is what I would do. I would buy it. I would finance it. I would make sure that I held enough cash to make those payments for a certain period of time. And I have to consider vacancy within my rental income.
Sure.
So I would hold back those funds for that specific reason, and I would have a specific account for that property. But I'd want to be ready for other opportunities, and you know they're going to come up, and you know you're going to need those funds. And whether the market drops 10% or not, there's going to be other opportunities out there to make money. And I want to keep that cash readily available, and I don't want to be held back by having to do another loan or to leverage myself at that time. I want to be prepared when it happens.
You know, it is the it's the crossover that each one of us has to make. And if you're a first-time home buyer or you're living in your very first home or whatever the case is, you might not have mentally gotten there because you're listening to not only the voices in your head, but you're listening to the outside voices, whether it's the media and so forth. But at some point, retirement and building wealth becomes paramount, and you make that crossover where you now start thinking like an investor. Because here's what I know right now with interest rates being as high as they are. We always have a saying at the Recon Group, lions eat, right? And a true lion eats other lions. And lions are eating right now. The high interest rates, the amount of investor clients that I have right now, I am swamped, and we are busy, and we're still working with more because they just have they've made that mental transition of it's all about numbers, it's all about money, and so forth. And we would love to have those strategy conversations with you. All you got to do is text the word cash to 623-AZ-RECON. That's cash to 623-AZ-RECON. I am 100% right with you on this. I would never, the only time I would ever use this kind of cash is in a fix and flip opportunity. If I knew I could pick up this property for $350,000, it needs $50,000, and I can turn around tomorrow and sell it for $510,000. I'm cash away. I'm throwing all that cash out there. But we're talking about a long-term hold, and we're talking about leverage and so forth. And I would do the exact same thing. Because I'm looking at buying an investment property at 25% down. I got $400,000 cash. Okay, so 25% obviously of
$100,000
is
$400,000
is $100,000. I theoretically, not including closing costs and not including the unforeseens and the upgrades and so forth, I could theoretically now buy 4 income-producing properties that are going to not only appreciate, but my renters are going to be buying down my principal, right? So now instead of having a $400,000 piece of real estate, I now have $1.6 million worth of real estate. But like you, there was a day and time that I didn't have the cash to jump on opportunities that my friends were jumping on. And years and years ago, I made a promise to myself. I was never going to be in that position again, because if you put that $400,000 cash down and then 6 months later, the deal of a lifetime pops up and you have no cash anymore.
Yeah. And just, I want to bring this up too. Guidelines change as markets change. So if there was a 10% drop in value and the market was headed in that direction, you never know if they could come, when I'm saying the investors, they could come back and say, your max cash out on an investment property right now is 60%, whereas today it's 75%. I've seen that happen before. I've seen that happen in 2008. I think that they may do something like that if we were to see values drop in that direction. So I want to be able to maximize again how much cash I have in my hand.
Well, the other thing, and you keep bringing up, let's say property values drop by 10%. Let's say they drop by 20%.
Yeah.
Let's say they drop by 25%. And people are concerned. People are not. There is a certain percentage of people, and I speak to some of them, and some of them on our podcast. They text into the show, and and that's what we do is when we talk to a new client, what is that thing? What's your tipping point? What's that thing that's holding you back? And for a lot of people, it's rates. And for a lot of other people, it's the uncertainty of the market. And they're afraid that the market's going to crash or their property values are going to go down. And so my response to them is if you buy a $400,000 property today and you move into it, and it drops by 10%, and now tomorrow it's worth $360,000, what's the worst case scenario?
You got to live there.
You got to live there longer.
Yeah.
You just got to hold it longer because you can't convince me that 7 years from now that property is not going to be worth more than what you paid for it. You can't, because we've never seen a 7-year period of time in this country where properties didn't bounce back and exceed original purchase price.
And my grandfather always used to tell me, there's one thing they can't build more of: land. And that's why the value just continues to rise over time. Yes, it goes down sometimes, but then it goes back up, and just like you said. But those people that have the issues with the rates and home values, I saw those same people when rates were 2.875%. I saw the same people, and they're like, no, the rates are going to drop to 1. They're going to drop to 0. And I can't understand. That money was so close to free. What are we waiting for?
All right, if you like some strategies in building wealth in real estate, and it is what we do, and you want to learn the principles of leveraging and how we see real estate and see through the prism that we see real estate and our personal strategies in our wealth building, go ahead and text the word cash to 623-AZ-RECON. That's cash to 623-AZ-RECON. All right, one more question on the subject, Justin. So, yes, Mike, Ryan, I hear you, but I can't hear you type of thing. And I see a $400,000 house, and I'm going to put cash down on it because one of the strategies out there is, yes, I don't want to pay the 8% interest rate, so I'm going to put cash down knowing that at some point rates are likely to drop into the mid-5s, low 5s. Some are even saying the high 4s. We don't know. And then the strategy is then at that point, now I'm going to do a cash-out refinance. If I put $400,000 cash down on a home and then down the road I do a cash-out refinance, I can't take the full $400,000 back out and put it in my pocket, but what can I take back out on a cash-out refinance?
So that's a great question. So currently the guideline is 75% of the investment property's value. If you're buying it as a primary residence, 80% of the property's value. Now, there's I want to tell you more, because with a cash out refinance, the interest rate is higher on a cash out refinance than a purchase rate. Also, you tend to have there's possibly more points involved depending on what the rate sheets look at like that day. And if the property is an investment property, you're definitely going to take a higher interest rate with some points. That's for sure. So you got to consider that into your plan for the future, but there's some information for you.
All right. If you'd like some strategies, you want to learn even about cash out refinance, it might be an option for you today. I don't know, but you might be looking at strategies. How do you leverage your cash to build wealth in real estate? And it's what we do, and it's what we specialize in. If you'd like some more information and to talk to either Justin, myself, or one of our highly qualified and prolific, boy, there's a word I haven't used ever, real estate wealth managers, all you got to do is text the word cash to 623-AZ-RECON. That's cash to 623-AZ-RECON.
Thank you for joining us on the Real Estate 401k Show. If you want more information on how to build wealth, click on the link or text us at 623-297-3266. That's 623-AZ-RECON.